Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday. Welcome back to another edition of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Jeff. It is episode 46, and holy cow, is it a beautiful, sunny, and warm Wednesday afternoon. Oh my goodness, I am so happy. It's warm. I've got my great friend Jeff Lee back with us together, my partner, my man, my boy. Hey buddy, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm excited. Today I get to go play hockey at Rogers Arena
Nice.
with the Canuck alumni. So I'm
Oh
looking
yeah?
forward to that. Yeah, so
Are you
I'm
playing with like Linden and them?
I don't know who's going to be there. I know the Canuck alumni are going to be there. It's an event that TD does, and
Okay.
I was graciously invited to it. So yeah, I'm taking our house notary, Grant Sauer, and me are going to be heading down to Rogers Arena and strapping on the skates.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be
Don't
cool.
hurt yourself though, man. Don't embarrass yourself. You're playing with pros. Don't embarrass yourself.
I probably will embarrass myself.
Don't try. Yeah, if
That's okay.
Lyndon's there, don't try to toe drag Lyndon and make him look ugly because he's just going to put you in the boards or just do it back to you and put you on your butt. Yeah, he's going to put you. He's going to put you in the dryer and spin cycle you, man. So don't get cocky out there.
Mind you, the alumni can be quite old as well. So and I find with some high level athletes, Trevor Linden not one of them. The Sedin's not one of them, but you see them after their playing days, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
when they stop
holy
going to the
geez.
gym. Yeah, I
Pardon
was
me?
like, what? When they stop going to the gym?
Well, yeah, and I think they just, I think they're just so used to burning so many calories, and then they keep on kind of having that same calorie intake lifestyle, but the outtake isn't as good as it was once they were playing in their
So
base.
listen,
So,
listen. So Keith to Chuck.
oh
He's
yeah,
yeah. So famous Winnipeg Jet. That's who he's drafted by. Us Winnipeg fans love Walt, right? His children, right? Brady and Matthew, amazing. Like what ridiculous sons he's got. Amazing. It's hard to imagine that his kids, my buddy and I always talk, we believe they're twice as good as Keith was, and Keith was amazing. Like, and Brady and Matthew are twice as good as he is. Have you seen though, Walt? Have you seen Keith the Chuck now compared to when he played? He's round, dude.
yeah, yeah. And that's what I mean is that yeah, their calorie intake is more than their calorie outtake. But those guys just have amazing hockey IQ.
Oh, it's
It's
unreal.
just next level, those guys. So
Unreal. Well, that's super exciting. I can't skate myself, but I think that's fantastic. So good luck, man. That's wicked. Oh man, so we're gonna kick it off today, I guess. I got a great did you know for us though. I got a great did you know.
okay.
So, Jeff, to kick it off, did you know that 70% of Canadians back tariffs against the US?
70%
So
Canadians are supporting it.
are supporting it. Yeah,
Wow.
70% of Canadians are backing tariffs against the US.
Oh, against the US. Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Yes.
against.
Okay.
Yeah, against. Yeah. So a recent Ledger survey shows that, and I'll let everybody know because I know Jeff, you always like to let everybody know what that means. I'll let everybody know what this Ledger survey is after. But a recent Ledger poll shows that 70% of Canadians support dollar for dollar retaliatory tariffs on the United States, with 45% of them strongly in favor.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh,
just so what everybody knows, the Ledger poll is a public opinion survey conducted by Ledger. It's a Canadian market and research analytics company. They gather data on public sentiment through surveys on various topics that include politics, economics, and social issues. And they often use online surveys, I beg your pardon, like this in cases to collect responses from large groups of people. And they're a well-trusted and well-known for the research within Canada, and regularly works with both government, media, and private organizations to track public sentiment. So, but here's some ways. Then this is really what I found very interesting. Here are some ways that Canadians are making their stance clear. So 63% are now buying fewer American products in stores.
Yeah.
52% cut back on Amazon purchases. 30% canceled their US travel plans. That's a big one.
Yeah.
To cancel your plans. And 68% intentionally buy more Canadian products.
Yeah.
Now, so I thought that that was just a great thing to see Canadians coming together, right, again, and really forging together, because this is what I've said. It's in terms of all uncertainty, in terms of what could be chaos. This is actually, I've always believed, a great opportunity for Canada to come together as a whole. Canada to build back its own independence economy. This is where I believe governments now have to step up, and we have to do a better job in granting tax breaks to businesses and incentives to businesses to start up and all that sort of good stuff. But we are now in a framework where we could do some great things within our borders, and it's nice to see that Canadians are kind of banding together, and that frittata Cheeto in a ill-fitting irregular suit down there can just continue to pound salt. But what do you think, Jeff? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think that's awesome. Number one, I think that Canadians are supporting the Canadian economy and cutting out things that they are not supporting, such as Donald Trump's tariffs. I always say consistency is key as well, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people work in emotion, and right now it's a very emotional time, and I think a lot of people are very proactive in these emotional times and saying, "Hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that," and they do it, but it's a matter of what you're going to do 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now. But to your point, I believe that if our government gets behind the nationalism of Canadians and starts implementing some tax breaks, or implementing some tax programs, or implementing just the whole ideology around purchasing domestic goods versus U.S. goods, I think we can do some pretty interesting things. But a lot of times it's just like when you're rolling out of a Tony Robbins conference.
Yeah, everybody's gung ho.
You're about to change the world, and then 14 days later, you're reverting back to what you've been doing all along. So
well, and that's what any movement, right? If you look back through the history of any major movement, right? Any one of those people will tell you that were a part of that movement, that it's in the follow through. Yeah. Right. It's not what comes out of that initial gathering together. That's the honeymoon phase, right? Yeah. That's when things are really easy. Yeah. Right. It is 30, 60, 90, 6 months down the road when it is tough, right? Yeah. When things aren't nearly as rosy as it was 6 months ago when this dream started, right? That's when you really that's when you really have to have everybody band together, and the follow through really needs to happen for the movement to continue and to succeed. And that's when the movement will succeed, when you get through the gritty area.
Yeah, and to be honest, like to be cutting back in your Amazon purchases, or you're cutting back in the purchase of U.S. bourbon and liquor, and cutting back on U.S. holidays. To be honest, that those aren't serious life changes or hard things to do.
Right? No, they're not.
So it's just a mindset as far as how you're going to move forward in that, and break just some, commonalities and habits that we have that are just easy. So
And
you
that's
have to
why,
be a little more aware.
yeah, and that's why I love the travel plans one, because it shocked me. I don't know why it shocked me, that 30%. That shocked me as a high number of people saying, you know what, we are going to put the plans that we made, these exciting trips to, let's say, Disneyland, Disney World, wherever that might be that we put together with our family. But, we're going to go to Canada's Wonderland in Toronto instead, and we're going to spend it there, right? We're going to keep the money. We're going to keep the money in house. We're still going to have that great vacation, but we're going to keep it within our borders, and we're going to enjoy our land, right? And I thought that's an amazing thing, because if you think, that is a pretty big sacrifice, vacation plans. I don't know why I find that one's a big sacrifice, but I just felt that one was shockingly big.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't even know why Canadians were traveling in the US anyways with such a weak Canadian dollar, right?
100%,
So,
yeah. I don't get it either, but
maybe they'll revert their plans to Europe. Maybe they'll revert their
yeah,
plans to Mexico. Maybe they'll revert, again, being a tourist in your own backyard. We have one of the most beautiful countries in the world. So,
right?
and probably the least explored by Canadians, right? So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
actually, one of the things on my bucket list is actually to travel across Canada and hit every province. So, not too sure if I'll get to that until I fully retire, but that is on my bucket list to do one of these days.
That's a great thing to do. When one of the places you have to hit is Saskatoon. That's one of my
Really?
favorite cities. Yeah, one of my favorite cities in all of Canada is Saskatoon. I love that city. It's beautiful,
I
beautiful.
really want to visit Montreal and Quebec.
Yeah, Montreal's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
never been,
yeah,
never been.
yeah. Awesome, buddy. Well, there's the congratulations, Canadians. Let's keep it at it. And remember, 6 months down the road, when things aren't looking so rosy and great, it'll still be good. Let's just keep pushing hard and banding together.
Yeah.
Jeff, my man, what we talking about today?
Well, I'm actually just gonna tally off on this tariff. It does seem like Donald Trump is full force with
Yeah, March
implementing
4th.
these tariffs here within the next, I think it's 10 days, if I
March 4th is his go date, he said.
right. So
Yeah.
we'll see on what that looks like. And again, like we talked about a pod or two ago, what these tariffs are going to mean to mortgage rates and our Canadian economy. And, again, it does seem that if these tariffs do go full blown, it does appear that our interest rates are going to dip lower, which is great. And, not to get too deep into that conversation again, just listen to, I think it was last week's pod that we touched on, and we can dive into that.
We can,
We
yeah.
also have a Bank of Canada rate announcement coming on March 12th as well. So, it is expected that our overnight lending rate, which is the sister to the prime rate, is going to drop a minimum of a quarter of a point. So that's good news for anybody that has a variable rate mortgage or any type of loan that's dictated by prime. And again, there's lots of conversation that once these tariffs come into effect, our fixed rates are also going to drop. So,
Well,
you know what?
and I got to tell you, I got to tag on to that too, Jeff. And we talked about it last pod, and I was talking about it with some colleagues again this morning. Again, the market seems busier. Like we came off, so I don't know how much we should have touched on it more, but we came off January, right? Where January had strong sales, yes, at a slightly decreased price point, we had strong sales, right? So prices dipped slightly, only slightly, but the sales were strong. And now heading through February, this whole entire month, it seems like we've had steady, strong sales again throughout this month. So again, if this is 2 months in a row, right, this is a telling tale. And this is where we've been speaking. We need a runway. We've been needing that runway to talk because things are ever changing.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well,
let's get on to your end, buddy.
Let's talk about porting mortgages.
Porting mortgages, buddy, because this might be something that people are doing in the next little bit.
Well, we've talked about this before. The reality of it is that 70% of people who carry a mortgage or who have a mortgage we'll break that mortgage within the first 3 years of having that. Now, sometimes that is because there is a life event that's happening. Sometimes that's because you're downsizing or upsizing. And one of the things about the personality of a mortgage is the porting option of it. So I just thought it was good timing,
Yep.
because I thought it was good timing to talk about porting a mortgage and the personality of it and what that means. Because again, 7 out of 10 Canadians are going to break their mortgage. And if they're breaking it to upsize or downsize, I think it's really important to understand what your porting options are. And more importantly, what porting means, because maybe a lot of us out there don't know.
Yeah, because there's some mortgages that you're not allowed to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about this as far as full frill mortgages and no frill mortgages, because again, Alistair, what do people ask? What is typically the only questions that your clients
The
ask when it
only
comes
thing
to
they care
mortgage?
about, what's the rate right now, Alistair?
Right. And the rate is very, very important. But I always tell people what's equally important, sometimes even more important, is the personalities of your mortgage. And one of those personalities is what are your porting options? Because these no frill mortgages that just focus strictly on rate don't give you any kind of porting options, and they're purely designed for that mortgage to be broken. Based on statistics, 7 out of 10 of us are going to break it. And if you're in that mortgage, if you don't have the ability to port that mortgage, if you're moving, they're designed to break and then paying a huge penalty in doing so.
Yeah.
So again, I always tell people it's like, I don't know, I'm going to get myself into troubles with all these analogies. It's like marrying somebody which is extremely, extremely attractive, and you get to and not really know that person, but then you're 1 year, 2 years, 3 years into that relationship, and you're like, ay, I didn't realize how crazy this person is.
It,
But they're good
listen,
looking.
listen, buddy. Looks don't age well. Looks don't age well. There has to be substance underneath it. That's so I'm with you with that, right?
And a
You
mortgage
don't get anything based on looks.
and a mortgage is a lot like that. We talk
Exactly.
about, people will talk about, well, what is the rate? Well, the
Yeah.
rate is like, dating that or marrying that really attractive person, but not really asking about what is their personality. Like, what
Right.
is the porting option? What is the blend and extend option? What is the prepayment option? These are all the personalities of a mortgage. And if you're just strictly going by rate or looks, and you're asking nothing else, you're probably going to get juiced in the end.
That's exactly it, because the substance matters. Like, what's the substance beneath it, right? Like, that's what's crazy to me when people just ask about the rate. What's the rate? I don't know. It's like 3.99. That's awesome. I'll get it. Well, you don't know. Wait, there could be some horrible underlying things to that.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to jump into one part of the personality of a mortgage outside of the rate, is the porting option.
Yeah.
So, Alistair, do you know, like, what does porting a mortgage mean to you?
Well, porting a mortgage to me means the ability to, if I am, let's say I have a home and I have a mortgage on it, and I decide to sell and buy a new home, I can take the remaining mortgage that, from my existing home, and I can port it over and make it part of the new home that I'm buying.
Right.
That's what porting to me means.
Exactly. It means that I currently live in a home. I currently have a mortgage. I'm either now selling that property and I'm moving into a new property, and I want to take that mortgage with me. And when I can take it with me, I'm not going to incur any penalty in
Penalties.
doing so, right? So that's what porting a mortgage means. Now, a couple of things that people need to understand about porting a mortgage. Sometimes lenders don't allow you to do it at all. And that's that no frill mortgage. That's like marrying that really good looking rate, and then getting to know it and then breaking up. And then you're like, geez, I just basically have screwed myself, because the only thing I looked for and asked for was the rate. And now it doesn't give me this personality. Now I've broken my mortgage. Now it doesn't allow me to bring that mortgage to this new property, and now I have a huge penalty in breaking that mortgage. So
So does that, Jeff, sorry, so does that usually happen then when you're putting down less than 20%? Is that typically what happens?
no, it
No? Okay.
actually it doesn't matter if you're putting down 20% or you're putting down less than 20%. These are mortgages that are called no-frill mortgages, which again usually will have a very attractive rate, but
Right.
will not have any personality.
Right.
Now,
And so you wouldn't be able to port that mortgage now, right?
exactly. Now, a
Exactly.
full frill mortgage, a lot of times still have that very attractive rate. A lot of times the same rate if you're looking hard enough, but gives you the personality to allow you to move that mortgage to a new place. Now, some of the things that people need to know is when they port that mortgage to a new place, sometimes there's always going to be a time limit on it, depending on the lender. Sometimes you're able to port it within 30 days. Sometimes you're able to port it within 90 days. Sometimes you're able to report it within 6 months. Sometimes you're able to port it within a year. And what I mean by a year, I'll use TD as an example. If I have a TD mortgage, I break that mortgage, I pay that penalty, and I'm not in the process of buying anything in the immediate. If I purchase something within that year and bring my mortgage back to TD, they're going to reimburse me part of that penalty that I had to pay, right?
Yeah.
So again, really important, guys, is that when you're porting a mortgage, make sure that your mortgage product allows you to do that, number one, but also find out the time that you're able to do it because every lender is not the same.
That's one that I learned. So I always like that porting a mortgage, I was always told, by my parents and everything, super important, you got to do that one. It was the time one actually that was the learning one for me was the time one. So I
Yeah,
agree. That is very, very important for everybody, for you guys to understand. It's not just about being able to port it, it's the time as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing that is really important to know and that a lot of people assume is that, hey, if I'm porting my mortgage from one place, the place I just sold to the place that I'm going to buy, I don't need to qualify,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's a big one. Understand, folks, that you do need to qualify when you're porting your existing mortgage to a new property. The only time as of today you don't need to requalify for your mortgage is when you're renewing with the same lender, right?
Yeah.
But if you are porting your mortgage from the place you just sold to the place that you just are buying, you have to qualify for the amount that you're porting over, right? So that's a big thing that people don't realize. The other thing to keep in mind too is that when you're porting a mortgage, let's say you're porting a $300,000 mortgage and now you're upsizing and you need to borrow another 200,000. All lenders, if you're in a full frill mortgage, are going to allow you to do that. It's called a
Yeah.
port and extend, right? But also sometimes we're downsizing. So now you have that $300,000 mortgage and now you're downsizing and maybe you only need a $100,000 mortgage. That's called a port and decrease. And really important, folks, all lenders don't necessarily do that. So that's another question, depending on where you're at and what stage of life you're in, is asking, hey, can I port and decrease my mortgage if you are downsizing? Porting and increasing your mortgage, every lender is going to allow you to do that if you're in a full frill mortgage.
Right. So one of the things I want to pause on, because this is like this so far, this has been a lot of amazing information. And I was, as you were talking, I kind of chuckled to myself that, you as a mortgage broker, myself as a real estate agent, we constantly, advise people to get pre-approved or sit down and have the discussion first. And a lot of times clients are hesitant or they feel insulted, right? When you encourage them to do that, and they feel it's a reason. They feel that you're trying to get money out of them, or they feel that you don't want to spend time with them because they're not approved, and so they don't really have money, or this, that, and the other. And guys, I want everybody to understand that that's not the case, right? there is so much to understanding what you can do before you go out to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you do have a home, and let's say you've been living in it for 10 years and you just have been renewing your mortgage, but not really paying attention to what the substance of your mortgage is, and you decide you want to move one day, right? It is so important to sit down and have that discussion of what does my mortgage currently entail?
Yeah.
Right? Here is my goal. This is what I would like to do. Am I able to achieve it?
Yeah.
Right? And obtain that pre-approval, right? Sit down with your trusted lender and have those discussions before you come and speak with us. And we're not saying this as realtors because we don't want to deal with you. It's because it's best served for us to help you when you already have an understanding of what your roadmap looks like, rather than us having to circle backwards to be able to, and it avoids so much disappointment,
Yeah.
right? In the
Well,
end.
I often describe it like running a race. You
Yeah.
cannot just get up and run a marathon. You have to train for it. You have to stretch.
Stretch.
You have to kind of do that preliminary stuff in order to get to the ultimate goal.
Right.
And doing a pre-approval, as you said, is just one of those initial steps you need to do so you know what you have to work with. There's nothing worse getting really excited about something and then at the end you're unable to do it. There's just not a lot of efficiency in that, right?
And it is, and it's a lot of it, sorry, and a lot of it is because I hear so many times like, oh, I own a home and I'll just put my mortgage over to my new home and all this and all that. And it's like, well, okay. And you show them a home, right? And they're like, okay, we're going to want to write on this one. You put the subject to financing, and then all of a sudden they find out they can't afford near that, right? And it's like, well, you probably should have done the legwork beforehand, like we've discussed, right? And then we could have avoided the disappointment.
I always, again, I like to talk in analogies. I always say it's like being in a city that you're not familiar with,
Yeah.
trying to get to a place that you don't know how to get to, or you think you know how to get to it, but then you're pulling out Google Maps to make sure that it's going to get you there the quickest and most efficient way. A pre-approval is often like being in that city that you may have some familiarity with it. Often you don't, but you're trying to get to a place where you think you know how to get to, but you might not know how to get there, or you're just unfamiliar. But that pre-approval is like that Google roadmap. It just tells you what you need to do, tells you where you need to go, tells you if to turn left or to turn right or go straight another 150 meters, warns you of the police signs, the police radar that are there, and that there's an accident on the highway. It just prepares you to get you to where you need to be in the most efficient way, right?
Yeah. So, exactly. Sorry, I didn't want to take us off course very much. I just everything that you were saying is so vastly important. I just wanted to make sure that we just reiterated again why it's so important to sit down and first step talk with your trusted lender first.
Yeah, and just to kind of bring this back to porting your mortgage, and it's really important. Every lender also ports the mortgage differently. I'll speak on Scotia. Scotia, say for example, Allister, you have a $300,000 mortgage. It renews here in 2026. You have sold your place. You're buying another place. You need another $200,000. Again, you're porting that Scotia mortgage. You need that another 200,000 on top of the 300 that you're porting. So how Scotia will work is port that $300,000 mortgage that renews in 2026. Then they're going to create another segment for you of that $200,000 that's going to basically be a new segment with a new rate and basically a new renewal, a renewal date, which might be different than your first segment that's been ported over.
Right.
And then there's the other lenders like TD, and we'll use that same example. You have a $300,000 mortgage. You're purchasing a new place. You need to borrow another 200,000. So now it's a total borrowing of 500 grand. What TD will do is they'll take that 300,000 and that rate. They'll take the new 200,000 and the rate of today, and they'll blend the two together. Give you one mortgage, with a blended rate, but your renewal date now remains the same as the mortgage that you're porting over. So again, where I'm going with this, guys, is that every lender ports a mortgage a little bit different, right?
And there's going to be pros and cons within that as well, correct?
Yeah, and then exactly, there's going
Yeah.
to be pros and cons within that. But again, if you don't ask those questions up front,
Right.
then you're kind of really handcuffed to whatever policy that is, unless you choose to break that mortgage, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
whole idea about porting a mortgage, and we'll talk about 2025, is to keep that low rate that you got, 5 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago. You're porting that low rate over. You're avoiding the penalty to break it, and you're able to kind of do what you want to do versus what you're forced to do. So again, it's by asking the right questions, but it's also working with a lending partner that's also advising you of the personality. Again, let's go back to the dating. It's like if I'm going to set Allister up with a good friend of mine, I'm going to warn him of all the good things and I'm going to warn him of all the bad things before he actually sets foot on it, so he's well prepared, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where I go with these. I'm like, you go onto Tinder, hey, it looks good. You basically get there and you're like, why is there am I looking at the right person here? Like what's going on? Right. So
No, that's a crazy place. I don't know. I don't live. I've never lived in that world. That's a crazy world, man. That world scares
nor
me.
did I. But again, I'm trying to paint some analogies that will make some sense for people.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing, guys, is often, and remember to, you are able to port fixed rate mortgages. A lot of lenders don't allow you to port your variable rate mortgage. So again, this is another question that you need to ask if you're choosing a fixed or a variable rate. Hey, am I able to port this down the line? Keeping in mind that you can be one of the 7 out of 10 people that are going to break your mortgage within the first 3 years of having it, because you're either upsizing or you're downsizing. And hey, and am I able to port and decrease? Am I able to port and increase? How much time do I have to sell and how much time do I have to buy? How much time do I have to port my mortgage from the old place to the new place? And most of all, does this mortgage that I'm currently in even allow me to do that? Or does this mortgage that you're offering me that has a great rate allow me to do that? Again, understanding the personalities.
Yeah.
And that's really about it. So
That's awesome.
hopefully we're walking away with, hey, one of the personalities of a mortgage is porting it. I want you to walk away with, there's more to a mortgage than just the rate.
Substance.
I want you to come away with asking the right questions about the mortgage that you're already in or the mortgage that you're going to get in. And I want you to come away that whoever is working with you trying to get your financing and put you into a mortgage, that they're just not selling you on the rate. They're telling and explaining to you the personalities of it. Because if you are just getting sold on the rate, you might be very, very frustrated when you're trying to break this mortgage or port this mortgage, and now you have a big penalty to do so because you're unable to do so.
You got to dig deep, people. This is what I always say: dig deep and ask uncomfortable questions. Try your best to make that person in front of you uncomfortable with the questions that you ask them, because it forces them to be honest, right? So that's where I say you just got to continue, just make sure that you're getting the best advice possible. That's again, that's why we're here. This is why we do this. This is why we try to load you up with all the bullets for the gun, right? So that you can, if you're not using us, then you can sit there and make sure that the person in front of you is giving you the best advice possible. Because again, we're in a crazy time, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this year. I really am. Some people are afraid. I think this is going to be a great year. A lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunity. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just, creating your own environment. And
Yeah.
I've always said if you want an excuse why you're slow or why things aren't going well, there's a lot of them out there, right? So
Exactly. Do you know why I think it's going to be such a great year? We are heading into a spring thaw already, Jeff. It's supposed to be what, plus 15 on Friday?
I don't know. Is it?
This
That
is,
would be
I
great.
think so, Jeff. It's incredible, Jeff. It's the sun's out, the birds are chirping, the grass is green. There's people outside and interested in real estate. I mean, it's a lovely, exciting time to live in Canada. God bless us all.
Amen.
Amen, brother. Awesome, people. Well, thank you so much again for spending the time with us today. I hope you've learned so much again. I hope Jeff and I have been of value today. You know, tariffs, we already know Canadians back that. Making sure that you guys dig deep. It's more than just the rate, people. You got to dig deep. You've got to ask the questions. You got to make sure that that mortgage and the personalities of it work for you. So, with that being said, as always, stay empowered, stay informed, and most importantly, Jeff,
Stay in tune.
stay tuned. That's right, baby. We'll talk with you all next week. Peace out.